another interesting BATM webinar this morning. I want to welcome everybody to the call and thank you very much for attending. As you know, we are recording this session for our members that are not able to join us in person this morning so that they can have access to the content afterwards. And we also will continue to use the chat function for any questions you might have. So during the session, if you have any questions, feel free to submit them in the chat function of the Zoom application, and we will be more than happy to handle those at the end of our event. I also just want to highlight that we are starting our planning to hold in-person events after the summer again, to enable our members to network in person, to combine obviously with an educational program. We will do so, of course, when the measures related to the pandemic allow us to do this in a safe and efficient environment. But stay tuned, more to come. And for sure, already mark your calendars for November 10th, where together with NATM, Cortas, and the Breda University of Applied Science, we will organize an in-person event at the campus of the university in Breda, and that will be held on November 10th. That's a full day program. More information to follow, but please save the date in your calendar already today. It promises to be a very exciting program that we are creating for all of you. Now it's my pleasure to introduce the session of this morning in collaboration with our newest member, SafeCure. So it's under the title of Travel Preparedness, Duty of Care. I think this is a subject that is very important to all of us, especially when we return to travel, hopefully as soon as possible. And it's now my pleasure to give the floor to Ronnie, and he will take it from here. Thank you very much, and I'll talk to you later. Thank you.
Thank you, Pascal, and thank you for having us. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all, and thank you for taking the time to join this webinar. We all know that our travelers are facing different kinds of risk when traveling. Thus, it is important to have systems in place to manage this in an appropriate way and to fulfill your organization's duty of care responsibilities. I'm sure and I hope you will find this webinar useful. That being said, my name is Ronny Sæther and I will moderate this webinar. To introduce myself, I work at Norges Bank, Norway's central bank, where I'm responsible for the travel risk management and executive protection program. I have leadership experience in law enforcement, military, and security, and holds a degree in international emergency management. And I'm currently completing a master's degree in international relations and world order at the University of Leicester. I'm also a committee member, subject matter expert, and national representative of the ISO 31030 working group. And this is the new standard on travel risk management, a guidance to organization planned to be published this autumn. I will talk more about that later. Enough about me, and please, next slide. In today's webinar, we have a great lineup of speakers. So there is the slides. So I will hold it for a minute or so. So the next slide, please. So in today's webinar, we have a great lineup of speakers covering important topics. From left, Tom Brabers from Fort Global, Martin Wilms from SafeCure, and Christian Truson, also from SafeCure. I will give a closer introduction before each of them entering the stage. Next slide, please. And here you see the agenda for today's webinar. Before we kick it all off, we will now open a poll and it will appear on the screen very shortly. Please give your answer. Are you ready and well prepared to start traveling again? And you have the options, yes, we are ready. Yes, but not completely ready to travel. We are unsure if we are ready to resume travel. No, we are not ready. We will keep it open for some few more seconds before we close it all down. Do you have the results, Sophie? And there are the results. Mainly, people are believing that they are ready. Some are a little bit unsure. That's interesting. Thank you for answering. So we will make a note of the numbers. And 41% and 31%, 18 and 6. Thank you all for answering. With that, we will go to the first speaker and the first bullet of today's agenda, preparation before travel. Please welcome on stage Tom Brabers. Tom is active for over 15 years in travel security, ranging from policy development, training to crisis response. Since 2018, he has been a managing partner of the Risk Advisory Department of Fort Global. Tom is also the vice chair of the ACIS Benelux chapter and lecturer within the Bachelor of Security Management. Tom, the floor is yours.
Yes, thanks, Ronnie, for that nice introduction. And every BATM member, thanks for taking the time today to join this webinar. So I'm a managing partner of Fort Global, and basically the product offering that we have as a company is now visible on your screen. We started 12 years ago with training, and that is because we believe that the behavior of the traveler really is the critical success factor. We can write on paper whatever we want, we can develop the most beautiful protocols, but if the people on the ground don't embrace it and are not equipped with proper competence and awareness, things simply won't work. And in that, deriving from the training department, we got a lot of questions on policies and protocols and crisis management. So 3 years ago, we started the risk advisory department, doing the activities as listed here. And there we take a humble role, because everything we write and everything we do within the risk advisory department, again, is supposed to influence the behavior of the people to whom it applies. Then some years ago, also, we started to offer a travel risk portal, which is basically powered by SafeCare. So more about that later. And the assistance part, which will also at a later stage, I will tell something about. But this is a complete 360-degree offering that we offer to our clients by means of a consortium of Eurocross, SafeCare, and Fort Global. Okay, next slide, please. So what are we looking at when we talk about safe business travel? Basically, we're talking about global risks. Global risks meaning that this is also changing. Where 20 years ago, 10 years ago, the whole map of the world, let's say the risk categories from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, were all ranging from green to yellow to orange to red. Now you see in the pandemic that the whole world at some stage was orange and red. And we've also seen already before COVID that, for example, terrorism is active on the European mainland. So that is completely different than 10 years ago. Things are changing still. I think also what's interesting development is that we are working more and more remotely. So cyber risks, so state and non-state actors are more actively pursuing our intellectual property. Then also we have changing business travel. So that was already, before COVID was already also going on, but now with COVID you see that people have a completely different understanding and definition of what is work and what is the workplace. The workplace can basically be anywhere. And I've seen companies defining the scope of their policy. They are working whenever they open their laptop. And it means that if they close it, they're free. It's a bit more nuanced than that. But you see that the workforce is organizing their international activities different. Thirdly, you have the, can we go back, Ronnie? I think, yeah, thank you. What's also rapidly changing is the media landscape, where 10 years ago you could still afford to not have an answer with regards to what happened, because basically you didn't know yet. Nowadays, with Twitter, with all the social media, your external stakeholders are expecting you to have an immediate answer if something happened. So let's assume there is somewhere an attack, a terrorist attack. You can expect questions straight away from family members asking, are my people safe? Yeah? So the demand to deliver information, the timeliness of things has dramatically changed. Then duty of care, Ronnie already mentioned it. That is a legal construct because as an employer, you have to take care of your staff. That is an obligation in the law. But maybe your safe business travel goes beyond duty of care, that you don't want just to meet the minimal legal requirements, but you just want to take good care of your people. As another side of that same coin is the duty of loyalty, because you cannot prevent all risks as an employer. You must also expect from your travelers, from your employees, to support the policy, to behave accordingly, to prepare themselves. And I think that requires a discussion and a dialogue within your organization. So where does the duty of care stops and where does the responsibility of the traveler start? All too often we look at travel risk from a generic perspective. So we look at a map and we see different color codings, and we read something about the risk. And that is partially true. Some countries are more dangerous than others, but it's not just about the location where you're going to. It's also who you are as a traveler and what type of activities are you going to do. And we work a lot for NGOs who may have a rights-based approach, advocating for human rights or for free journalism, for example. And that may be a much more risky activity than going to the capital of a country and working with a bank or working for a consultancy firm. So you really need to look at the mix of the internal and the external context. And that's really also very ISO like, you know, ISO norm also talks about the internal and the external context, because only looking at the generic risk profile of a destination, yeah, that's simply not good enough. Now, finally, I want to highlight that you must take your organization as the starting point, then develop a policy, and then work the tools around that. So every organization is different. And we talk with clients and we try to determine, why are you setting up a travel security program? And what is your ambition? Do you want to expand your activities into a certain countries, but you're unsure about the risk? Is your staff perhaps overestimating the risk, so they don't want to travel? And we see that also a lot. That some of the staff don't want to travel because of the risk or the perceived risk. And they have also people that underestimate the risk. So they don't see any risks, they don't see any problems, and basically don't follow your policies. So really starting with the organization and not just copying a policy document from another company, because for sure it will not fit, it will not work. I see it a lot, and I think you really should take a good close look at the organization and what you're trying to achieve. What is your management culture? What is your risk appetite? What is your objective? And only then write the policy. And then, as a final step, find the appropriate tools to support that policy, to make sure that it comes alive. Okay, next slide, please, Ronnie. And this is also one final point for this part that I want to give away to you. We all too often think that when we write something on paper, like a protocol, we post it somewhere on the internet, and then we assume that everybody reads it and everybody complies to it. And there's actually jurisprudence that says otherwise. You as an organization must take an active role in nurturing the security culture. So bringing the policy under the attention, making the policy easy to follow, easy to read, to add value, put it on the agenda periodically, maybe also in a performance review, so that you are ensuring that everybody is aware of your travel security program and the policies and tools that come with it. Now, for this part, I would like to leave it here and give the floor back to Ronnie.
Thank you, Tom. Really interesting and important. So, the next speaker on stage is Martin Willems, who will talk about being prepared and informed during travel. Martin has been working in the security and ICT industry for more than 20 years. Currently, Martin is a senior international sales manager working for Swedish Stateless SafeCare in the duty of care and travel risk management industry. Martin has a background in the international security industry and is also an ACIS Benelux member and a board member of the BATM Dutch Association for Travel Managers. Martin holds an executive master degree in business administration. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ronnie, for your kind introduction. Really happy to be here this morning. Welcome you all here to this Belgian webinar. As Pascal mentioned, I recently joined the BATM also, so I'm really glad to be a member of your association. And hopefully, as Pascal mentioned, we are able to even meet each other in person at the end of the year during our mutual event in Breda. I'm going to talk about being prepared and informed during travel. As you can see on this picture, we are the advocates of safe travel. So as you can see in this picture, we want to create a safe bubble for your employees, for your travelers around the world. So that's our main objective from a technology perspective. Sophie, can you go to the next slide, please? So referring back to the slide of Tom, you can see here on the right corner that we take care of the technology part of our duty of care consortium, making sure that during traveling and also all your locations and employees are informed. They are basically, as an organization where they are, because you know where they are traveling, because we are able to integrate all your travel bookings. And of course, important, in an emergency situation, you are also able to mass communicate with all your employees. Can you go to the next slide, please? So let me further introduce SafeTrip to you. We are a Swedish software as a service software company where we have a nice employee safety platform in place, where we, as mentioned, inform your colleagues, communicate and locate all your personnel. We have around 3,730 companies we guide and inform on a daily basis. We are operational in all verticals around the world. For example, governmental organizations, oil and gas companies, finance companies. So we're basically in all industries working together with all our medical assistants and security companies. Currently, we have users in more than 180 countries worldwide. And what is really important is that we work with our own analysts to be able to inform all your colleagues about what is happening in the world. We think it's really important that we have our own analysts in place where we work around the follow the sun principle. Therefore, we have our own analysts working from our head office in Lund in Sweden, working from Brazil and working from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia to be able to see all the alerts that are happening around the world. And more importantly, also validate what is happening. Is it a true event? And before we publish it through our platform, there's always a human eye seeing all the alerts that we publish. On a monthly basis, we publish more than 2,100 alerts every every month based upon your GPS position, and we publish that through our platform and our app. Just to mention some of our references, as a Swedish company, we are of course very proud that we may guide the IKEA family and also all the companies related to IKEA around the world. This is of course where we are really proud of. Another nice reference here in the Netherlands, where I'm talking to you from my home office, is the Rabobank, a big Dutch international bank that we persuaded to choose for our duty of care consortium, consisting of Fourth Global, Eurocross Assistance, and our technology. They chose us by the end of the year, and now we have implemented our technology together with our consortium partners. And one of the last one that we are also proud of is the biggest, almost biggest German company called Siemens. After a really competitive tender, we were able to convince them to use our services. And that is especially a nice achievement because they had really tough, especially information security demands. And we were able to tackle them and help them out with their requirements. What is also important to mention is that we are medical and security provider agnostic. By that, I mean that we can work with several partners all over the world, trying to meet the requirements of our customers all over the world. And last but not least, we are stock listed. So that means that we are financially valid and been around the block since 2009. Can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, what is of course really important nowadays during COVID-19 is that you are well informed as a traveler. So for that reason, we established the openupforbusiness.com website, I think already more than a year ago, where we actually invite all companies, organizations, and travelers all over the world just to visit our free website and look through our interactive map and be informed about everything that is happening towards the COVID-19. It's an open source platform, and we keep up with the really fast pace of all developments, especially lately, where suddenly France is opening up. So a lot of things is happening around the world due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and we are able to catch up with that pace by means of this COVID-19 free website. So please check out this website if you want to be informed about if you can travel and what the restrictions are in your particular location or your destination where you want to travel to. It's also good to know that we also have an embed code freely available for this website. So you can even publish this on your own intranet or website. So if you have any demand for that, please let us know. This sums it up from my side. Please take over, Ronnie.
Great. Thanks, Martin. Also really important what you are saying. Thanks again. Next up is Christian Trudeson, who will show you duty of care in practice and the SafeCare platform. Christian is a university master's graduate in economics, and he is now working with his passion, technology and people. As the client relationship manager at SafeCare, he is responsible for onboarding global clients throughout the entire process and cultivating and nurturing the relationship along the way. Christian is also leading the customer development team at SafeCare, which means responsibility and ownership of providing a personal touch and a tailored solution to fulfill customers' needs. Take it away, Christian, and please take control of the screen.
Thank you very much, Ronnie, and thank you for having me. I will start to share my screen, and as has been discussed, my aim is to show you the technology in practice. So what does the SafeCare platform look like? Just to start off, I would like to talk a little bit about the setting here. On the very left-hand side, where you see my cursor moving around now, there we have the SafeCare web portal and admin interface. So when we are on the left-hand side, we are looking at the technology from a travel manager's perspective, a security manager, or for instance, an external security provider such as Tom and Forth Global, or a medical assistance provider such as, for instance, Eurocross. On the right-hand side, we see the SafeSure mobile application. When we are on the right-hand side, we're looking at the system more from an end user's perspective, me as an employee and me as a business traveler. So with that said, I will now show you the interaction between the two, how the technology can work together with your internal team, with you as the travel managers, with your providers, such as, for instance, Forth Global and Eurocross. And let's take it from here. So the SafeSure platform is built on 3 core pillars that we believe are critical. It is information, communication, and location. By having them in one platform and one place gives you a quick and efficient way of getting to know who is potentially affected by an incident, what has happened, and how do you communicate with them, basically being able to reach out to them. To show you this in reality, I would like to start with our pillar of location. So location can come from many different ways in the SafeSure platform. To show them to you, I will now toggle on personnel and facilities. By doing that, you can see that a number of different icons popped up on the screens. We have a number of icons, which are our employees. Those are people either with a travel booking that has been sent into the platform, or with a mobile application being positioned through the GPS in the phone device. But we also see these other icons, which are facilities. So as an organization, we can also add all of our offices, warehouses, or maybe even locations that are of particular interest to our business into the platform so that I can stay informed of what's going on around both the people and my fixed locations. But now let's add another pillar to the equation. Let's toggle on the SafeSure alerts. So like was mentioned by Martin, our alerts are published by our analyst teams around the world. They are all geo-based, and as you can see, they all have a certain radius attached to them. So if we look at this alert that was published outside of Paris in northern France, then we can see that it has a rather large radius. And this gives you quite a good example of what the radius does and means. Because now that we have people and facilities and the location of those in the system, and we together with the alerts, we automatically know who is potentially affected. This means that as soon as the alert is published into the platform by our analyst, the vetted information goes out to me in my mobile application, as you see on the right-hand side, and it goes out to my travel and security administrator, my company's assistance providers. Right away, they can go into the portal and see who is potentially affected. But what do you do with this information? So now you know exactly what has happened and you know who is potentially affected. So now we need to communicate and make sure that everybody are okay. In my mobile app, I can directly go to an alert, read about it, and I can report that I am okay with regards to what has happened. My assistance provider or my travel manager can click on a certain cluster of people to open up the dialogue, and as you see, a message button pops up. You can also draw a polygon with a certain area that you may be interested to communicate with people within. All the filtering has been done in terms of what facilities and who is within that radius, and you're one click away from reaching out to all of your employees and making sure that they are fine. Moving along here, a large part of the SafeSure platform is, of course, information. And both in the web portal and in the mobile application, employees, as well as you as the travel managers, have access to information on over 200 different countries and regions. All of the information here is accessible in terms of an overview where you can get the basic information about the country, all of the latest alerts that are relevant for this country and that are connected to this region and destination. More in-depth safety assessment where you can read up on, for instance, crime in a certain country or terrorism. Travel-related information such as passport and visas, domestic and international travel routes. cultural information, which is very important. Oftentimes there may be specific cultural do's and don'ts you should be aware about before you go to a country, specific clothing requirements, or maybe even something you should be aware about if you're a female traveler going to this place. We also have information on medical health concerns and the general status of medical facilities in regions. And of course, given the current pandemic, you have all the possible COVID-19 information in terms of restrictions, quarantine measures, guidelines, travel bans, and all the like. All of this information is customizable by our partners. So Tom can come in here and customize the security information with his and Fourth Global's expertise. Eurocross can tailor the platform in terms of all of the medical information. Or maybe you as the travel manager want to give your employees your own personal touch, then you can add information to the portal as well so that employees directly know who is, for instance, the local contact person. Travel is a critical part of the SafeShare platform, and we come from travel risk. Therefore, we can integrate the platform with all travel management companies out there. We have direct integrations with Amadeus, Sabre, and Travelport Galileo. But we also have unique integrations in place, which, for instance, Agencia, BCD Travel, CWT, and similar. This means that as soon as an employee makes a reservation, makes a booking, either through the TMC's app or by calling them, the booking comes into the SafeShare platform. What happens then is that you, as the travel manager, you can see all of the upcoming travel bookings. You can be specifically notified about any high-risk travel that is going to happen. And I, as an employee, I see all of the trips in my app. I also get important updates on, for instance, gate changes and similar. One important thing when using a mobile application that uses GPS positioning is, of course, privacy. It is SafeShare's complete aim that the end user should always be in full control of their own privacy. So in my phone, I have the possibility to completely switch off the service. By doing that, I won't share any data back to my company or with my assistance providers. Or I can, for instance, choose to go to a different position setting to only share what region or state I am currently in and not what exact location I'm in. Finally, what I would like to tell you a bit more about is our assistance page. While being on a business trip, you may get into distress. Either you get sick, you maybe feel threatened. This may also be after working hours when you're out for dinner. Not only do you have direct access to local emergency numbers, which are automatically updated based on your position, but you also have access to an assistance button, the big red SOS button as you see on the screen, which is directly connected to your organization's assistance provider. Pressing that button starts a countdown. When the emergency mode has been activated, you get the opportunity to call your assistance provider, such as Eurocross and Fourth Global. Or if you cannot call the number, it is important to know that a notification has already gone out to all of the administrators, notifying them that you are in need of help. And remember, I just put myself in a privacy mode. But since I pressed that emergency button, I don't have to think about what privacy settings I have. As soon as I'm in need of help, I'm that one button press away from getting in touch with my providers and getting the right help. So with that presentation, I hope that you have seen the core functionalities of the SafeShare platform. And with that said, I would like to hand over the word to Ronnie again.
Thanks, Christian. Great to see a demo of your platform. So let's continue on the webinar. And Sophie, please share the screen and the presentation. So the next topic is getting help while traveling. To cover that, Tom Brabers is back on screen. So here goes.
Yes, thanks, Ronnie. Yeah, I really like just to summarize the last presentation. We really work closely with the SafeShare platform. Basically, I see it as a digitalized way of offering your policy and all the processes to your travelers, making it even much easier. Of course, then when you press this panic button, you may be in need of assistance. Now, for today's webinar, Eurocross was not available, but we are the reseller of Eurocross in the Netherlands. We run around 35 different Eurocross dedicated assistance lines, so I'm pretty familiar with the content, and I'm perfectly able to present it to you. So what is Eurocross and who is Eurocross? Eurocross is fully owned by Achmea, the biggest Dutch insurance company, and they offer 24/7 advice and worldwide assistance. What is unique for Eurocross is that they offer you a dedicated emergency number and a bespoke protocol for your organization. So that means that you can make it exactly the way you want it. So a lot of people think, a lot of organizations think that when they have a prescription to just a medical service provider and or an insurance company, that they have a number to dial and that they are fine. And the reality is that it takes, first of all, verification and identification of the person who's calling. That takes time, valuable time that you may not have. And also we noticed that a lot of these alarm centers are either based in India or in Ireland. So yes, they speak English, but the question is whether you, if you're not a native English speaker, if you're able in your moment of distress, able to communicate that properly. Eurocross has over 300 multilingual assistance coordinators and a super high NPS score. Really, the service is very traveler-centered. Basically, also when you have a request or you're in need of support, the question will also evolve around, what do you want? Do you want to stay in country? Do you want to be medically evacuated? And so it's not like pushing a red button and that everything just happens automatically. Eurocross works worldwide with a network of local agents and medical service providers through the Astrum Alliance. And so the medical part is being dealt with by the network of Eurocross, and the Astrum Alliance is a huge alliance and network that has a very high volume of cases. Now, I would argue that a network is better than to have your own assets. If you have your own assets as a medical service provider, and for example, your patient has a problem with the eyes, but the hospital that your service provider has is more geared up for burn wounds, then you end up in the wrong hospital. So it's much stronger to have a global network and to select a facility that suits the needs of the patient and of the travelers. Then from the security perspective, we fall back on the worldwide network of G4S, where worldwide we can, for example, arrange a security escort or a security guard in front of your house. And by this, you will see that we can cover the entire spectrum of the different types of requests that come in. And with this, you must also imagine that, for example, recently we have been quite busy in evacuating people from Myanmar. So being able to arrange flights and to help our clients to get out of certain places. And now recently also with COVID, with the outbreak of COVID, Eurocross was one of the first to work closely with the Dutch KLM to make isolated units within the airplane and medically evacuate people from areas where they should fly under quarantine. If you click it one more time, Ronnie. So whenever you are looking at an assistance line, I think it is important that you take away these key points. One is you should have one number for assistance. And all too often I see security policies that have 3 different emergency numbers. One of the medical service provider, one of the insurance company, and one of the internal line. And I would argue that you need one number for all emergencies, and that behind that there is a protocol that divides the roles of the different stakeholders in that. And actually, we see a lot of people in our training sessions, and then we ask, okay, if something happens abroad, you're going to call the emergency number? Yes. So what is it? And over 50% doesn't know the emergency number. Is unaware of the fact that there is an emergency number. And I think that that is one very quick win, low-hanging fruit, to introduce one number and to introduce it to all staff. What is important to realize is that 85% is medical. So 85% of the cases are of medical nature. So you really need a strong medical organization to run your assistance line. Otherwise, you'll be caught in a moment where you have to advise on something that you know nothing about. And please remember that you should have a protocol that is geared up for your organization, that is the script being run by the alarm center in order to manage your interests. And then finally also to escalate to your own crisis management organization. So for the sake of time, I would like to leave it here, Ronnie, and give the mic back to you.
Thanks, Tom. So next up on the agenda is me. As mentioned in the beginning of the webinar, an ISO standard is soon to be published. So there are different types of standards, you know. So you have the standards you can certify against, and you have guidelines. So this standard, 31030 Travel Risk Management Guidance to Organization, is, as the name says, guidance. So I will briefly describe what the purpose of the standard is. So managing travel risk is part of travel-related activities of an organization, including interaction with stakeholders externally and internally. So the standard is intended to assist those managing and participating in organizational travel. One of the aims of the standard is to promote a culture where travel-related risks is taken seriously, resourced adequately, and managed effectively, and where the benefits to the organization and relevant stakeholders are recognized. So it will also help organizations to meet their duty of care responsibilities. So if you during the webinar have thought, oh, maybe I'm not so prepared, this standard will be of help. It is published later this year in the autumn, as said. So the standard provides a means for organization to demonstrate that travel decisions are based on the organization's capacity to treat risk using internal resources or with external assistance. Thus, the standard provides a structured approach to the development, implementation, evaluation, and review of current policy, to developing your program if you not already have one, and you will be able to treat the threats and the hazard and the identification process there within. So this standard will in sum help all organizations to have a holistic approach to travel risks, health, cyber, and physical, before, under, and after travel. So how you best can make use of the standard is that you as an organization can use it as a guidance to create this holistic approach to travel risks, and know how you can handle every aspect of it. So it can also be used to create a bespoke travel risk management system or incorporate it into the existing system you already have in place. You can also use it to benchmark as a good practice to see where your standing is. Or you can get a second party or a provider to audit, to use the standard and make an audit to see how the standing is. And it will also help providers to understand the buyers, to pick their brains, to see what travel manager or travel risk managers actually need or are focusing on. So it will help you to have a holistic approach and to create something or put something in place if you don't already have it. So with that said, I will ask you to take the next slide, Sophie, because Martin, I believe you have something to announce.
Yes, I surely do. Of course, we as a duty of care consortium really believe that it's really important to, let's say, support your organization by means of this new ISO 31030 guideline. And therefore, we developed this ISO 31030 check, which is called checkmytravelrisk.com, which is freely accessible for all organizations around the world to actually help you to get a better grip on your travel risk management. So this is a check where you can freely access and determine and check what your current situation is and how to sort of get a grip on where your gaps are in your current organization. And what is also really important, and that what I would like to stress, is that if possible, please do the check with multiple stakeholders within your company. We can see that building a really robust travel risk management program, you must include all stakeholders within your company, not only HR, travel managers, security managers, because it also includes all your facilities and basically all your home workers and employees. So please keep in mind to, if possible, fill it in by multiple stakeholders within your company. Sophie, can you go to the next slide? As mentioned, we built this together with Aon, one of the biggest risk insurance brokers in the world. And together we built this ISO check. And when you fill it in, you actually receive a report straight away, which gives you these kind of dashboards, which you can actually use towards your board or your management to get a better view on where you stand if you compare it to the ISO 31030 guideline. So this is a free, accessible ISO check that we would like to offer to you. And check it out through the website that you saw on the latest slide. So if you're able and find some time, please do the check and see where you stand in the requirements for the ISO 31030. So that's what I wanted to share with the audience. Giving it back to you, Ronnie.
Great, Martin. Thanks. That's a great opportunity. So you find a web address on the slide, and I'm sure it will be shared after the webinar. So we will soon open up for Q&A. However, first of all, we will open the same poll that we had in the very beginning of the webinar to see if your thoughts have changed during the webinar. So, Sophie, can you please open the poll, and we will give the participants some seconds to answer. So, thanks. I think we stop there. Can you share the results, Sophie? So, we have a slightly difference here. So, more people believe they are ready, and that is positive. And actually, that goes for almost all, without the last one, who have increased with 1% that we are not ready. So, hopefully, for that 1%, this webinar will be of help, and to all of you others as well. So please keep in mind what we have said, and also have a look at the providers and the platform shown here in the webinar, and also have a look at the ISO standard when it's published. So I guess the whole panel are ready to answer questions. So we open up for Q&A, and I hand it over to you, Pascal. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for the partnership this morning. It was a very interesting and educational session as far as I'm concerned. Yes, we have received a few questions. So first of all, we have a question around travel insurances. So We have travel insurances covering medical issues and loss of luggage, depending on the kind of traveler. What is your advice here? Better to have one insurance partner, and is Eurocross also supporting non-medical emergencies?
Yes, that's a very good question. I do not want to argue that it's better to have one insurance partner, because insurance is primarily a financial construct. You pay premium and then you are financially compensated. And that is a matter of procurement and looking at these financial variables to see what is competitive and attractive for you. Eurocross is able to have direct billing agreements with a whole set of different insurers. And that is the beauty. There is one number, and in case there is an insured request, then they can liaise with that insurance company and you will not see the bill. So a direct billing agreement. And Eurocross definitely also supports the non-medical issues. So 85% is of medical nature. It doesn't even have to be medical support, but it can also be just advice. So, hey, I'm suffering from this and this. Doctor, what do you advise me to do? Take rest, take certain medication, or see a doctor. But the 15% is not of medical nature, and that could be anything. And this is also supported. And that will be then primarily for global dealing with it, with our extensive network. So yes, Eurocross is able to cover the full spectrum with different underlying insurance constructions.
Thank you. And we received another question. What are the challenges you face in placing your solution on the market? Organizations not fully mature in the area of travel risk management, nice to have, but difficulties in integrating this type of solution with other travel service providers, companies not prepared to invest in this area, etc. Anyone who can comment on this question, please?
I can actually jump in here a little bit. So the beauty with having a technological solution like the SafeShare platform is that it's very flexible in terms of what you use. What we often see and have experienced together with Fourth Global and Eurocross specifically is that a client, depending on their maturity level, start with one set of functionalities that are maybe a lot simpler. Maybe it is that the travel manager provides some apps to the most frequent travelers. Maybe it is that one panic button and that one number. And then you can start scaling. So you don't have to start with the full-blown platform and all of the benefits of having that. You can start and growing together with the service providers and with the technology. When it comes to integrations with the platform, it is our aim to be that central open platform with many different open integrations. So that is something our developers do on a daily basis. For instance, we integrate with HR databases, single sign-on providers, all the travel management companies, like I mentioned before. So to be that platform to manage employee safety, we understand that you have to have that open network and integration possibilities with all different providers.
Thank you. At this moment, I don't have any other questions. So for the audience, if you have any questions, feel free to submit them in the chat function. We'll give it another few minutes to see if any other questions are being asked. In the meantime, I already want to thank everybody for attending this morning. Want to thank SafeShare and the partners for this partnership this morning and the great session provided. As I said in my introduction, stay tuned for more BATM events coming as of September, as we typically do in the months of July and August. We take our summer break, so this will be the last session of the first half of the year. On behalf of BATM and myself, and we do have another question that came in. So a question for the SafeShare team, does the communication feature in the portal provide two-way communication with the travelers? What options do they have to reply?
That is a very, very good question. Yes, it does provide two-way communication. And we try to cover as many ways as possible for an employee to be able to respond, and also for the administrator to be able to chat back. So with that said, we support an online chat functionality. We do support email replies and emails being sent by the administrator. And we also support regular SMSs, text messages, to make sure that we can cover employees in offline situations as well, where you maybe do not have access to internet.
Thank you. And I think with this last question that we come to the conclusion of our webinar, because we have 2 minutes left to stay nicely within the time frame that we had foreseen. So on behalf of BATM and myself, again, want to thank everybody for their participation and attendance this morning. Enjoy the summer holidays, stay safe, and we hope to see you all back as of September, and hopefully in person if the measures in the Belgian market allow us to do so. So stay tuned. Thank you very much. Have a great day and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.